Welcome to World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary Boss, the podcast where we dive deep into insider tips, travel hacks, and the best ways to explore the world smarter. I'm your host, Ross. Whether you're a seasoned traveler or just starting your next getaway, you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's episode, I've got something special for you. Head over to itineraryboss.com to grab your free resource to get you started traveling smarter and quicker. And it's all yours to help you make your next trip unforgettable. Don't also forget to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcast on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube so you never miss an episode. We've got new travel tips, interviews, and destination inspiration coming your way every Wednesday. And if you enjoy the show, don't forget to share it with a friend and give us a rating and review to help more people travel. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Itinerary Insider at itineraryboss.com, where you'll get all the latest episode releases, blog posts, as well as exclusive credit card sign-up bonuses, my travel must-haves, and travel hacks delivered straight to your inbox. Let's get you traveling smarter. And now, on to the show. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary Boss. I'm excited to continue down this solo series just to walk you through different trips that I've planned, been on. And for this episode, it's really going to go hand in hand with a webinar around how to plan the perfect surprise trip for your partner. So this one actually was the first surprise trip with my fiancée Audrey that I planned to Turks and Caicos. So this was a couple years back. She had her 30th birthday coming up, and doubling down and it being a surprise birthday that I was throwing, I decided also why not throw her a surprise trip and figure that out. So Turks and Caicos is always a place, I had always wanted to go, whether that was from Drake with the Nana Turks and Cake line or one of my friends when we were younger calling it Turks and Caicos. So it always stuck out to me, but I'd heard great things. In all seriousness, it being 3 hours direct flight from Charlotte on American, which we fly and have status, that made it an easier choice. And when I started to dive into the details and look at budget friendly resorts, really found an opportunity to go during the winter around our schedule. So that was one of the main reasons was that direct flight on American Airlines. And we paid with credit cards on the way down. But one of the nice things now is over the years, as I continue to travel hack, is on American, we just recently booked flight there direct to and from round trip for 19K miles. So through AA Advantage. So that's pretty inexpensive. And there's a reason, why it's under a certain mile threshold for AA. So I got one of those tips and tricks through some of the people I follow at 10X Travel. So they're really the points and miles complete experts going through and through. So if you want to learn how to do that more in detail, go follow them for a step-by-step walkthrough. But that's a great tip and trick if you are looking to travel on points and miles. Turks is one of those. There's a couple other in Central America. But for the itinerary and how I actually pulled off the surprise, I think that's good because I have an upcoming webinar that I'll go through how to pull off the ultimate surprise from trips that I've done for Turks and Caicos to Portugal to Costa Rica, as well as I have other episodes around how to plan a trip to surprise your best friend and working with his wife. So back to Turks and Caicos, though. I know we're getting on a little tangent, but this is around a whole webinar series. So with Turks and Caicos, how do I pull off that surprise? One of my favorite things to do is when it's birthday, when it's Christmas gifts, right? Instead of materialistic things, doing gifts, experiences. So what I did is, I started to look at, okay, where can I get that is within a direct flight that's going to be nice during December, January, and that's not going to be super expensive. So I started to map stuff out, and Turks is what I came across. Was able to get the flight for, I think we paid right around $500 each. And then the hotel we stayed at was the Royal West Indies. So this is a more budget friendly hotel. It was honestly great. It was right there on the beach. It was central. It was right next to all the top restaurants. They had bikes that were available. And what I loved about Turks is when you fly into the main airport. And then from there, if you stay in Grace Bay, which is where I recommend people stay for a first time, that's where all the restaurants, hotspots, nightlife, really everything you need is right there. But with Grace Bay, you then can, or with Royal West Indies, you can then bike to everything you need. You can walk to everything you need. There's a grocery store right there. So if you are on a budget, um, you're able to cook at home, breakfast, lunch, and then, my suggestion is go out to the dinners because that's where you're going to get, some of the best restaurants. But the beautiful thing is 15 minutes after if for my Charlotte people, 3 hour direct flight, which is great, makes it very straightforward. And then from there, the Royal West Indies, we loved it because it had a bunch of pools. I mean, it had a king bed. The place we stayed, we paid about 300 a night, so pretty budget friendly. You're right there, walking up to the beach, and then you can walk down the beach, and you're right there on Grace Bay next to one of the more mid luxury resorts, the Seven Stars. Which, if you're wanting to have more of a non-budget friendly, that's a good one. I know, those probably range from 500 to 800 a night, wherever, whenever you're going. And then you have the Ritz-Carlton, which is right there. The beautiful thing about the Royal West Indies, though, is when you're staying there, you can walk to those other ones. You can go hang out at the pool. You can go get dinner, lunch. The Ritz-Carlton has a nice casino, so if gambling's your thing, go check it out. That was an awesome experience. But just going to walk you through our itinerary, what we really liked, some lessons learned, maybe what not to do. And yeah, so we flew in on a Saturday. We went Saturday to Saturday in December. We're actually going back this year in December as well. Great prices. If you go earlier in December, like the week before or a week and a half before Christmas, like you're going to find great deals because it's in between that Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday. So the prices are going to be lower from an award standpoint as well as from a stay standpoint. And on this trip that we're going down in December, we actually found an Airbnb where we're paying less than 200 a night right there on the beach, sitting right next to the Royal West Indies where we can walk. And we're doing more of a budget trip where we can go to the grocery store and then have nice dinner. So a nice weekend getaway. But for this trip, we went down Saturday to Saturday. We flew in Saturday morning. We were able to get to the hotel mid afternoon, and we just got settled in. And then there's a place called Coco Bistro, which is right next to the Royal West Indies. I highly suggest making reservations at least 2 months out because it's been one of the top rated restaurants there, but it is phenomenal. I actually when my best friend and his wife went there for their honeymoon, gave them my itinerary, and Coco Bistro was something they went to, and then they went back as well for when they went on a group trip for the second time, 2 years in a row. So it's a great place to go, but make sure you make reservations in advance. They also have a Airstream food truck that's outside. So if you aren't able to get there from a reservation standpoint, or you don't want to spend the money, it is a little bit more pricey, but it's worth it. They have their food truck called Coco Bistro or Coco Von, and they have similar food, same chefs, and it is phenomenal. Like we went there once for lunch, and it's very affordable, and that's some place that we plan to go back when we do go back, even if it's for a few lunches. It's a must go to. So that was day one. They also told us, hey, maybe don't hang out past midnight and go into the casino. Of course, we went because there was a casino on our way home from walking from dinner and out at the bars called the Casablanca. It's a smaller casino. More of the locals go there. I think check it out if you want to see how it is. Maybe don't stay there till midnight or one, but it was a good time. It was a good way to start off the trip. Sunday, we honestly just relaxed on the beach. I mean, we had our day of travel. Football was going on, so we made reservations at a place called Bay Bistro. It's a little bit further down, so if you want to walk, we did walk. It's probably a 45-minute walk on the beach. You'll be sore the next day, that's for sure. But it had one of my favorite lobster Benedicts, and it's right there on the beach. You sit out on the patio and you're overlooking the beautiful ocean. So that's a must go to. We also did that for dinner, and I'll get into that. But yeah, we ate there. Highly suggest it for brunch. Then we went to the terrace at Grace Bay. So if you are there for football, that's a great place. It has an outdoor terrace. It has a ton of TVs. So it has an inside with a bar that wraps around with a bunch of TVs and has an outside patio that's covered, hence the word terrace in the name. And that was a great place to watch football. And they had this big platter that had pretty much all the appetizers you could want for football. And once we ate that, we honestly just watched football and went home and were slumped. Like we couldn't even eat dinner just because of how full we were from that. So highly suggest that. Then we did Hemingway's on the beach. So that's connected to the Seven Stars Resort. We really like that. I highly suggest it. If you have a shorter trip, I don't know if that's a top go to, but that's definitely a place that if you have a longer trip, definitely try that. Then we kicked off the week of excursions and having a little bit of fun. So we did horseback riding. So I had never ridden a horse, and Audrey had. Of course, when we went, I got the biggest horse. His name was Turtle. He had a tramp stamp with Turtle on it on the back, which, being a big Entourage guy, my guy Turtle, I was, of course, hyped right off the bat. And it was called Provo Ponies. So when you do book that, and I'll drop the link in the show notes of if you want to book that on Get Your Guide. I'll have to look. I think it might be on Viator. It might be on both. So what I'll do is I'll link that in the show notes, and you'll put in. The nice thing is you put in where you're staying. They come pick you up with a shuttle. And then they take you there. But no, that was a great experience. I mean, you pretty much get ready, you get to know your horse, you ride him a little bit, practice, and then you just jet down and walk to the ocean. Then you're walking on the beach, you're walking in the water. You obviously have a guide. You're not just free ranging it, but it's a great time. Highly suggest it. So that was a very cool experience. Provo Ponies was the name. And then we went to Bay Bistro for dinner. So that was actually a very cool experience where you could get your own table there on the beach. So they have the patio up here. Then there was a romantic dinner option. You had to pay a $50 deposit, but it was worth it. You sat on the beach, you watched the sunset, you had an ice bucket with wine or whatever beverages you wanted. So we were able to sit there, have a nice sunset, romantic dinner. And on the website, you can find, options there. But if you email Joan and Clive at yahoo.com or text 16494323474, you can actually book a beach table in advance. I highly suggest it. Again, my boy Mike and his wife Martine booked that for their honeymoon, and then they ran it back again when they went on a group trip for their birthday or for her 30th birthday. And they did that with that group of friends. So they really liked it. Highly suggest it. From there on Tuesday, we did Chalk Sound. So this was a very cool day. You do have to get a cab there. It's about a 15-20 minute drive, but it's cool because you're on a completely different side of Grace Bay. So there's Sapodeo Beach, which is also a very cool beach, and more remote, but it's a beautiful beach. Some food stands. There's a floating bar that goes out there. But to start with Chalk Sound, you can rent kayaks. A lesson learned from us was, and this is funny, I actually broke two of the paddles because when we got there, and this is something that, if you are going, maybe do the pontoon cruise, unless you really want to just kind of figure it out. But stuff that I had read online was you can just walk up, get your kayaks, start going. Unfortunately, they only had the two-seater kayaks and then they had a one-seater. So Audrey wanted to do the one-seater, and then I took the two-seater, thinking like, oh, this is easy. We got into the middle of the or Chalk Sound. This is a beautiful place, by the way, beautiful see-through water. And it starts getting windy, wavy, and I have my paddle and I'm going. First one snaps, and I'm like, great. Second one, coming back in, second one snaps. And then I take Audrey's and I'm using that somewhat. And then one of those snaps, and I have to get out and walk mine. Luckily it was like waist high in the sound, so it wasn't bad, but I had to walk my kayak back in and ended up having to pay a little bit, but also was, upset a little bit, which hindsight shouldn't have been, that they didn't have, the one seater. So hindsight 2020 and a lesson learned. If you I would, when we do, since we're only going for 4 days, we probably won't, but if you do have a longer trip, book the pontoon cruise. And I'll link that in the show notes as well, because that's fun. You get on a pontoon, they take you all around Chalk Sound. You can get out on some of the beaches. So that's a definite. Wednesday, we hit it hard. Wednesday we did the sail and snorkel tour, and that was pretty cool. They picked you up. It was a 4 hour catamaran tour. They picked you up at 9 a.m. They showed up a little bit late, which was fine. We went to the Ritz Carlton and got some bloodies. Start off the day nice, and from there they pick you up, take you out. And what I liked about this was you go to this place called Iguana Island, which there's tons of iguanas running around, which was pretty cool. And you got to see, just walk around and be right next to them. Supposedly now there's some stuff that's happened there, from my boy Mike's trip, and we'll find out more when we go back. But that now they don't allow people on the island. And one of our favorite parts about the sail and snorkel tour was my man Erickson was getting us a little litty with the juice. And supposedly now, I guess people are just getting too wild. Not us. We actually made a joke that, if you came on here trying to party like at 9 in the morning to 1 p.m., like you could have a day. We had a few drinks and we were like, wow, that was a lot. So great time there. You also got to do snorkeling. So they took you out, drove you around, did snorkeling, went to Iguana Island. And then after that, you were just cruising on the catamaran, meeting people, having a good time. So that was fun. And then Wednesdays is when the island pops off. You go to DeConch Shack, and that's about a 15-minute cab ride from Grace Bay. Make sure when you're going there, so something we did was we got our drivers, because Uber's may be better now, but we got our driver's card. So then we just said, hey, come pick us up at this time. And he came back and got us. He was telling us in the car, I'd like, it gets kind of crazy and it's hard to get rides home somewhere or sometimes. So definitely do that. But the Conch Shack, what it is it's a Wednesday night weekly party. They have fire show on the beach. They have everyone coming in. It's a tradition there, and you got to see it to experience it, but it's a cool show. It's a huge party. They get a Congo line going. Everyone's drinking, having a fun time. Yeah, so let's just say Thursday we woke up hurting a little bit, but it's very fun. We made reservations in advance. Unfortunately, they didn't have them, but luckily they were able to seat us at a table where we did meet a couple from Louisiana, which was a good time. So definitely recommend a Conch Shack if you're there for a Wednesday. Thursday, we'd hit it hard Monday through Wednesday, just with activities, just having a good time. So we just relaxed. We just hung out at the beach, enjoyed ourselves, just caught up on a few things from work, just walked down the beach, rented bikes, went and got sandwiches from the market. I think we did Coco Vaughn that day, as well. And it was just more good time. They do have the fish fry on Thursday, for dinner. I know that when we were there, it wasn't going on. I guess it was out of season, or they weren't doing it. No, no, no. I'm sorry. They weren't doing it because of COVID. So we went during during when you had to get tested to get in and out for COVID. So I think they weren't doing it then just due to COVID. But when we go back this year, we're excited 'cause we're flying in Thursday morning. So we can, unfortunately, we're missing the Conch Shack party Wednesday, probably for the better, but Thursday we'll have a good time at Fish Fry. And then Friday was our last day before we headed out. So we weren't trying to, have a conch shack night again, but we just relaxed at the beach. I mean, and the pool resort. I mean, that was the nice thing is we had a couple pools there. We had, the beach right there. So we just walked around, enjoyed that, had a relaxing day. And then we did a sunset cruise on the same catamaran with my guy Eric's on. So by that time we were just like, all right, maybe we'll have an I Soon Reach, which is their local beer, or why not, man? But yeah, I would suggest that sunset cruise. It's 2 hours, beautiful sunset. Same group does it, not too expensive. I think it was like $80 a person. And I forgot to mention the catamaran cruise was right around 100. So, but definitely worth it. And the group was great. I don't now with how the snorkeling cruise, since you don't go to Iguana Island, since you don't, there's not, if you're trying to go on a booze cruise, maybe don't do the day one. But the catamaran sunset cruise is definitely worth it. And then a restaurant we did not go to, but we are going to next time from recommendations I read online, as well as from Martina and Mike, who went, is Infinity Restaurant and Raw Bar. I've heard it's great, so we're excited to do that. And yeah, I mean that was it in a nutshell. We flew out. I mean, we had to get COVID tested to get in and out. Now I don't think that's possible, but or not going to happen. But for the airport, getting home is, you want to make sure. I would say when we went, if you're checking a bag, it was kind of crazy. So it could have been COVID. I'll report back after our next trip, but 2.5 hours at least, just because if it's during high season, it was kind of crazy in there. Luckily, we were able to skip the line because we had one of the apps during COVID. If you downloaded all your stuff, you're able to skip. But, my suggestion is always check a bag or not check a bag. Don't check a bag. Bring a carry on. And that makes it so much easier. And a tip and trick is, if you're staying somewhere, check to see if they have a washer and dryer. If you're at an Airbnb, do they have one in the house? If you're at a hotel or resort, do they offer laundry services? Because then you can pack light. You're not going to wear as many clothes as you think, and less is more. After traveling and planning trips for 10 years now, I can tell you that half the time you don't wear some of the stuff. So that carry on is going to be your best friend. And then right. And then it just makes the check in and airport process smoother. But all in all, I love Turks. It's a place that there's not a lot of places I'll go back just because I like to see a lot of places, but that's one where you can go there for 4 days, enjoy the great food. The beaches are amazing. It's affordable. And being in Charlotte, it's an American, you can get to and from there in 3 hours from wheels up to wheel down, and you can use your A Advantage miles. So something to think about. Obviously, when you're looking at some of those miles, make sure you're looking at the right times. If you're looking at Christmas or Thanksgiving and you're like, or New Year's, Ross, I can't find these lower points amounts. Well, you got to be looking at more flexible times where not everyone is trying to go there. But yeah, another thing is hotel concierges can help with taxis. I think that's huge. So they'll usually, if you make cool with the hotel, Royal West Indies honestly was great from a budget standpoint, and they'll help with everything, and they're pretty good with the taxis and getting you all set up. And then one other thing, the Grace Gourmet it came back to my mind, was the name of that grocery store that's pretty central in Grace Bay. So if you are traveling on a budget, for example, like this time we're planning to eat breakfasts and lunches, get sandwiches from there, just cook in the Airbnb. And then for dinners, obviously go out because that's one of my favorite parts there. But those are definites that you have to do. But appreciate everyone tuning in. I hope this was valuable for some of these other upcoming solo episodes. Make sure to follow us just so you're getting a lot of these updates. Please vote on some of those polls. That way I can make sure that I'm bringing as much value to you all as possible. If there's other stuff you want to hear about or I may have missed, feel free to drop a link or drop a comment and DM me. That's how we get better. And make sure that you share this with family, friends. Give it a 5 star if you think it deserves it, because that is the way that we reach more people and help more people travel more. And that's the ultimate goal, is to help people start to make more memorable experiences and focus on the really important things in life. So until next week, we'll see you. Peace. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give us a rating and review so we can reach more people who are trying to travel. Also, make sure you give us a follow and hit the subscribe button. That way, you're not missing out on any of the upcoming episodes that come out every Wednesday. If you want to sign up for any of the exclusive credit card sign up bonuses that we mentioned, we'll link those within the show notes. And then that way you can get started on your points and miles travel hacking journey quicker. Tune in to next week's episode. Peace.